What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing one of the most eventful 5-0s I've ever had in the Open Great League, running a triple shadow team with Bibarel, Gallade and Sneasler. The thinking behind this team was that I wanted to run two of the most underrated fighting types that can beat basically all the other fighting types, but a big issue I had is that they both kind of struggle up against Lickitung, which is fairly common this season, so I wanted to have a normal type in the lead that could also beat common flying types like Gligar, Skarmory and Talonflame, so I opted with Shadow Bibarel. I don't recommend this team, but it was definitely fun to run, so with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which unreleased shadow Pokemon are you hoping comes to the game soon? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, we lead Bibarel into a Bastiodon, so my entire team actually does fairly well into a Bastiodon here, so I'm just going to stay in, expecting the opponent to eventually swap out, but they're not swapping out, so we're going to go straight for a Surf here. I'm not too sure what the opponent is running in the back, because typically, whatever they are running is going to do pretty well up against a Bibarel, either it's a Shadow Victory Bell or an Annihilate, and they do come in with a Trevenant, so that's kind of why they didn't swap there. Obviously, these Shadow Claws are going to be double resisted. We go for a Surf, we actually grab a Shield there, and my reactions were quite slow, so I'm actually just going to let the Bibarel go down here. I've got two Pokemon in the back that can deal with the Bastiodon, so didn't really need to swap out of that matchup. I can safely shield this up, and even if they bait with a Seed Bomb like they do, I can just go for the Shadow Claw farm down, and the opponent has a Shadow Victory Belt in the back, so we're going to go and fire off an Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace will be grabbing the final shield from the opponent. We make it to Aerial Ace number 2. I wait one turn just to make sure they don't make a catch. Aerial Ace will be taking out the Victory Belt, and we've got a Shadow Gallade to take out the Bastiodon, so the opponent just concedes the match there. So first battle, a pretty straightforward win so far, but into the next game we've got a little bit of an issue for our Bibarel there, and we swap into Gallade, and the opponent responds with a Dragalge, which is actually a positive matchup for us. I can safely shield this up. They end up throwing on alignment, so we get the full Confusion farm down, and we still got enough health here where we can bait with a Leaf Blade, and I do believe we will make it to a close combat as well. So we grab the shield there, and we do make it to the close combat. Absolutely huge, as this is going to get both shields from the opponent, and also my Gallade has very bad IVs, by the way. I call it Australian IVs because I'm from the UK and the IVs are basically upside down of what you want to get for a PvP Pokemon. I'm not sure why I actually built this Pokemon, but here the opponent makes a really nice catch, catching a debuffed close combat onto Poliwrath. It still does huge damage though, and I can just stay in, even with the debuff to my defense, build up to a second close combat, swap into my Bibarel, and whilst we are taking super effective from the counters, the charge move is resisted, and the opponent recognizing there's nothing they can do, so they just concede the match there. So GG's to that opponent there, and I do promise the battles do get more eventful as we go on, but into the next battle we see Azumarill in the lead now. Honestly, I tried to wait for the opponent to throw a Play Rough and then swap out without throwing, but the opponent, when they overfarm as much as they're doing here, I kind of just have to throw, and we do at least grab a shield though, which is nice because Hyper Fang is going to do quite a lot of damage, but obviously a Leaf Blade from Gallade is super effective, so now we're going to swap into Gallade. Because they farmed up so much, they do easily make it to a charge move there, and now they come in with a Shadow Snorlax. Honestly, there's no point baiting here. Might as well just full send the close combat. If they let this go through, it will one-shot the Snorlax, but they can come in with a Dugong, get the Ice Shard farm down, and now with a 2 Ice Shard energy advantage, they will actually outpace me to back-to-back charge moves here. Now, of course, Drill Run is super effective, but there's really no reason to go for that. They can go for Icy Wind, debuff my attack, and they will be able to take me out with the next charge move anyways. We can go for a close combat, but the opponent actually no shields that. So once again, we bank a close combat, we swap into Bibarel, and honestly, I need the opponent to no shield this. We go for the Hyper Fang, and they let it go through, and I'm able to Water Gun, farm down the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. So the opponent clearly underestimating the damage output of the Bibarel there. Into the next battle, a great lead. The opponent's going to Safe Swap into Umbreon, and this is fine for me. I'm going to just let this move go through. I know I do have two fighting types in the back, but they've got resisted fast move damage. And as well, I mean, close combat is going to debuff my defense. I'm going to let the first move go through. Very unlikely that they're running Psychic, but they are, and it one-shots the Sneasler, and I was just like, oh god, there's no way back from this now, because these Confusions are double resisted. Yes, of course, close combat will be taking them out, but I mean, if the opponent wants to, they can probably just double shield in this matchup here. I'm going to go for 2 confusions, throw on good timing up against the Umbreon, go straight for the close combat, and the opponent is going to let that go through, which is huge for me. They come back in with the Talonflame. We're going to go for 2 confusions there, swap into Bibarel, and the opponent is stuck in the Incinerate animation, so they can't swap out. We go for a Surf, grab a shield, and honestly, I need to shield this and go for another Surf hit. I also need the opponent to stay in for whatever reason, and they are staying in, so potentially weak to Bibarel in the back. We're going to go for Surf number 2, grab the final shield, and here I could have gone for close combat, but I think even double resisted Leaf Blade will just barely be enough to take out the Talonflame, and they've got a Swampert in the back, so the opponent definitely should have swapped out of that matchup, but either way, Leaf Blade one-shots the Swampert, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there, and into the final battle of the set, we lead into a Skarmory, so this is a slightly positive matchup for us. The opponent going to safe swap into a Galvantula. I'm going to respond with my Sneasler, expecting them to just go straight for a lunge. They always do, and they do. That is double resisted, but I mean, forget the charge move damage. These Volt Switches are absolutely chunking, and unfortunately, I'm not even going to make it to 2 charge moves here, so I end up losing switch advantage, and I already feel like it's going to be a Lantern in the back, so this is not looking too good for us. We're going to come in with the Shadow Gallade. They're going to debuff me again, but I have to shield this time as this is a neutral lunge. We go for the Confusion Farm Down, expecting the Skarmory to come back in. We're just going to go straight for the close combat. We are debuffed, but even so, it still does huge damage. We swap, and the opponent swaps at the same time. It is the Lantern, but it's a Water Gun Lantern, and this is just so much better for Bibarel as we go straight for a Hyper Fang, dealing huge damage to the Lantern. At this point, if we call this correctly, if this is a Thunderbolt, I don't believe they make it to a second move, and it is a Thunderbolt. We go for the Farm Down. They do make it to a last second charge move, but I do believe this is just a Surf. It is resisted. It still does a lot of damage here. We can go for 1 Water Gun, throw a good timing, go for a Surf, and I'm not 100% sure if we do make it to the charge move, so I swap into my Gallade, and the opponent is going to fire off a charge move here. They're going to go for the Sky Attack. Sky Attack will be taking us out, and we do just barely make it to a last second Surf. We're on 1 HP and a Dream, but Surf takes out the Skarmory, and I'm able to go 5-0 in this set. So GG's to that opponent there. And just to show that it was a 5-0, but into the next battle, we're going to see Bibarel into Azumarill. So another Azu lead. This time we'll see if I do try and swap out after they land a Play Rough. But the opponent's actually, no, I'm actually just going to go straight for a Hyper Fang here. I believe this might be one of the first battles I did with this team. We go for the Hyper Fang, and now I will tank this move. Can't really afford to shield this just because the charge moves are going to do more damage up against my backline. We swap into our Shadow Gallade, and I could go for the Leaf Blade straight away, but instead, I'm going to go for a full Confusion Farm Down. They probably will just swap out of this matchup here, and they swap into a Talonflame. So here, we're going to wait 1 turn just to make sure I don't debuff my defense as I go for the close combat there. Fully expecting that to KO me now after the debuff to my defense, but the Incinerate actually doesn't quite take us out. We make it to a Leaf Blade, which I also didn't expect, in which case I should have just gone for another close combat there, but it doesn't matter. We grab the shield anyways, and we come back in with the Bibarel, and honestly, I'm just going to have to let this move go through. They go for a fly. They will make it to a second fly after just 1 more Incinerate. And honestly, I think they make it to a 3rd fly after just 1 more Incinerate after that. So the opponent actually swaps into Serperior. I know Aerial Ace is going to be super effective, but close combat still going to do more damage, but just barely, not quite enough damage there to KO from that range. So the opponent can go for an Aerial Ace of their own, taking out the Sneasler, and unfortunately, we do end up losing that game. But GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see a Dugong in the lead. So pretty similar to Azumarill. We're just going to stay in this matchup, and the opponent is going to fire for charge move straight away. It might just be an Icy Wind here. Yes, they're going to go for the debuff, in which case I'm just going to clear that debuff, swap into my Shadow Gallade, and the opponent comes in with a Carbink, and this is actually a very positive matchup for us. We're going to go straight for the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is going to be no shielded. It does a lot of damage. I throw the second one straight away as they were at Rock Slide, and once Rock Slide, yes, it is resisted damage. Look at how much damage we've taken already from just resisted rock throws, so certainly going to shield that up as I already grabbed a shield from the opponent, and we get the Confusion Farm Down. Now they come back in with Dugong. I could have made it to a close combat, but I'm going to go for the Leaf Blade straight away, grab the shield from the opponent. And at this point, I think I'm going to come back in with my Bibarel and just fire off a Hyper Fang here. And we do get there just before they throw a charge move on their Dugong. Hyper Fang is going to connect. It does huge damage there. It puts them into Shadow Claw Farm Down range. We still live the drill run, and it's a melee champ in the back, so this is looking great for us. We've still got a shield advantage here. Gonna use my shield. It will just be an ice punch, but I don't care. Ice punch would get me fairly low. I can just farm to nearly 100 energy, go for an aerial ace. Aerial ace will be enough damage to easily take out the melee champ, and then aerial ace would have taken out a dugong as well, but we go and full send the close combat just for the sake of it, taking out the dugong, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Umbreon in the lead this time around. So I'm just going to stay in with my Bibarel initially. Let the first move go through, and then I probably will swap out eventually here. But no, I'm actually going to stay in, go straight for a Surf here. Kind of interesting play here, but Surf does get them fairly low. Now I swap into my Shadow Gallade, and the opponent swaps into a Shadow Gramble, and this is not looking too good for me. I'm going to go straight for a Leaf Blade here. Leaf Blade does at least grab a shield, and I should be able to make it to a charge move on my Bibarel here, but they do still have a shield remaining, so they're probably... Oh no, we don't even get there in time. That's really unfortunate. And at this point, I know it's game over. It's probably double charm anyway, so I'm just going to let the move go through. We do just barely live that, and it is double charm. It's Wigglytuff as well, so even if I shielded that, there was no chance I win that game. But GG's to that opponent there. And into the next game, we see Bastiodon in the lead. They say swap into Annihilate, so I'm going to respond with my Sneasler here. Honestly, could come in with either Pokemon, but Sneasler does gain energy a little bit faster. So we are now going to be able to go for an Aerial Ace, and if the opponent wants to shield this up, I can go for a second Aerial Ace. And Sneasler will certainly win CMP up against Annihilate, as Sneasler is a very attack-weighted Pokemon. We've got both shields from the opponent. They really desperately want switch advantage, so I'm certainly not going to give it to them. They've probably got Shadow Victory Bell in the back. They come back in with the Bastiodon, and we just barely miss out on the close combat. But I don't think it really matters. We can come in with our Shadow Gallade, and 3 confusions is all it takes to take out the Shadow Victory Bell. And the opponent just concedes the match there as a close combat one-shots the Bastiodon, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Diggersby in the lead, and they're going to swap straight away into Wigglytuff, and this is probably going to be another double charm team, so certainly not ideal for me whatsoever. We go for a Surf, grab a shield from the opponent, and we should just barely make it to a second Surf before they get the full charm farm down. Please just let this move go through. They do actually let it go through, and we're able to get the Water Gun farm down too, which is pretty huge for me. Now I'm going to come in with my Shadow Gallade, and because I'm expecting a second Charmer in the back, I'm definitely going to shield whatever they throw here. They go for Scorching Sands, unfortunately getting the debuff, and I'm going to over farm here because I know that if they let this go through, I need a energy advantage to take out whatever is in the back. So the opponent going to go for another charge move here. They go for the Scorching Sands, and then they swap into Ninetales, and I make a huge mistake here. I should not fire off this charge move. Instead, I should swap immediately into my Sneasler, go for the close combat, as that would take them out after a few Shadow Claws. And then I've got a Leaf Blade banked for the Diggersby, but instead I come in, I go for an Aerial Ace there. Also should have over farmed in that matchup, and then the opponent's just barely able to outpace me to a charge move. Fire Punch does take us out. Actually, they were running Fire Punch anyway, so it's just good timing. They would have outpaced me anyways, but GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle, we see Talonflame in the lead, so pretty good lead matchup for us. The opponent does stay in initially, then they swap into Annihilate. This time we respond with our Gallade, and we're able to make it to a Leaf Blade before the opponent makes it to a potential Shadow Ball. We grab a shield from them, which is really nice, and now at this point I can just shield this up, go for a full Confusion farm down. They bait with an Ice Punch, but it doesn't make a difference as we still get the Confusion farm down before they make it to a second move. They're now going to wait out the switch clock here, and once again going to go for a close combat, throwing straight away, expecting the Incinerate damage to KO us, but they actually let that go through, and that KOs the Talonflame instead. And now here we do bank a Leaf Blade. Unfortunately didn't quite make it to a close combat. I'm going to swap into my Bibarel, basically just force the opponent to throw their energy as soon as possible, otherwise we would have made it to a Hyper Fang. Although you could argue I could have just gone for the Surf there, it doesn't really matter, both are resisted, but at this point, unless they're running Flash Cannon, we should be looking fine here. They're going to go for a Thunder, but Thunder is going to be neutral damage and also a non-stab charge move, so we should live one, even if they do make it to a second Thunder. But we go for the Aerial Ace, grabbing the final shield, and Aerial Ace from this range should be enough damage to easily take out the Ferrothorn, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Bibarel into another Talonflame, so very nice to see it in the lead once again. And the opponent's actually going to stay in with the Talonflame, eventually swap into Greedent, and this is a little bit awkward here because, of course, Greedent could have Crunch or Trailblaze, and if it's Trailblaze, then I'm going to have to swap out of that matchup there. Going to swap into my Gallade, and we do have a Leaf Blade loaded, so if they go for a Body Slam, they can throw a second Body Slam straight away, but we're going to win the CMP tie. I'm just going to go straight for that Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade takes out the Greedent, but they can just come back in with the Talonflame, Talonflame, and they do leave with a charge move loaded. So we're going to wait out the switch clock as long as possible and then come back in with the Shadow Bibarel, and unfortunately we don't have a charge move loaded, so I'm going to have to shield this up. We shield, it's a Brave Bird, so that's a huge call there. They then come in with Vigoroth, and this is certainly not ideal. We're going to go for a Surf, and then my switch clock should be up now, but unfortunately they are double resisting the Shadow Claw damage, so even though we beat most fighting types with our Sneasler, up against Vigoroth, which is a pseudo fighter, it actually has a pretty positive matchup here. Unfortunately they do make it 2 back-to-back Body Slams. We're only making it to 1 move here, so I just full send the Close Combat for the sake of it, and Close Combat actually goes no shielded by the opponent, and then I throw the game away. What am I doing? Why did I throw a charge move here? I thought I had a Surf loaded on my Bibarel. I was wrong. If I just went for the extra Shadow Claw, we could have got a full Water Gun farm down, but instead the opponent's able to Brave Bird, take me out, and unfortunately we do end up losing that game. So huge throw there from me, but well played by the opponent. And into the next battle, we see Azumarill in the lead, so I've already said a couple of times that I do farm here, wait for them to throw and then swap out. I haven't actually done that in any of these battles yet, so this is probably the example I was thinking of as we tank the play rough. I mean, we say we tanked that, we did not take that very well, but we can now go for a charge move here, and I make a huge mistake once again. Throw on alignment, I just always mess this up. 4 turns up against a 5-turn move, but luckily for me, we're able to get to a close combat there. That is a very inconsistent mechanic, which normally we would not get, but I'm very happy to get it there because now Bibarel already has a charge move loaded. Surf is going to be winning the CMP tie up against the Talonflame, taking out the Talonflame, and the opponent's going to come in with a Serperior. My switch lock isn't quite up yet, but this Surf chip damage will certainly put them into range where even an Aerial Ace probably takes them out with a few more Shadow Claws. I'm expecting the opponent to try and make a catch here, so I've got to be careful of that as they go for the Aerial Ace, but we've got 2 shields remaining, and at this point we can just shield up the Sneasler. The opponent will make it to a play rough. I can overfarm significantly in this matchup, farm to nearly back-to-back charge moves. Gonna go for the close combat. Close combat, even resisted, takes out the Azumarill, which is insane damage, and now an Aerial Ace from this range will be enough to take out the Serperior, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game we see Bibarel into Lickitung. So this is the Pokemon that I was a little bit worried about, but the opponent's going to Save Swap into a Spark Lantern. And unfortunately, whilst we've got grass coverage, it doesn't really help when we are behind on energy as we go for the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade, going to grab a shield from the opponent, but a Surf is basically going to KO from this range. So I have to shield it up, I have to respect the damage. They will outpace me to the next charge move, and they do throw just before we make it there. So I'm going to shield up the next Surf. Honestly, I prefer if they probably just shield this up, because that way I can come in with my Sneasler and go for a Shadow Claw farm down, but the opponent does let that go through, and if they've been counting, they know that this can't be a close combat, so Leaf Blade does go unshielded by the opponent, which is certainly not ideal for me. But we're now going to come in with the Bibarel here, and we're going to go for a Surf straight away just before they make it to a potential Power Whip. And then I'm going to hope that I can catch the resisted Power Whip onto my Sneasler, which I'm able to do, but I need something very weak to Sneasler in the back, and unfortunately it's Azumarill. Azumarill isn't that weak to Sneasler. I'm going to go for an Aerial Ace here. Close combat does more damage, but I don't want to debuff my defense and then not make it to the next charge move, so we do just barely get to a second close combat here. And this is going to do huge damage to the Azu, which they let go through because it is resisted damage, but I don't think I'm going to be able to fully Water Gun farm them down. That play rough does huge damage, and they are able to make it to a second play rough, and unfortunately this is certainly going to be taking out the Bibarel, and we do unfortunately lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, another Lickitung in the lead, so this is fine with me. The opponent is going to stay in with the Lickitung initially and then swap into Shadow Gligar, which is a very interesting decision. I'm going to go straight for the Surf here. Surf is going to grab a shield from the opponent, although we can't swap out of this matchup here, so I'm just going to stay in, going to shield the first move. They will be able to just barely outpace me to the next charge move, so not ideal for me because Aerial Ace as well is going to do big damage there. So much more damage than I was expecting, so I swap into my Sneasler, I get the Shadow Claw farm down, and the opponent comes back in with their Lickitung, so I'm just going to fire off a close combat straight away. If they let this go through, this would one-shot them, so they do end up shielding it up, and the opponent is not going to try and farm me down. A bit risky, so they go for the Body Slam, taking out the Sneasler. Now I'm going to wait out the switch clock, come in with my Shadow Gallade, and fortunately for me, the opponent swaps out of that matchup into their Poliwrath, and now this is so easy. All I have to do is shield this up. They go for an Icy Wind, of course, debuffs my attack, so I'm actually going to swap out, clear that debuff. We had the Surf banked on our Bibarel, and this is just guaranteeing the win. A Surf puts them into range where certainly a close combat will KO. And the only way we lose that is if for whatever reason, when we come in, the charge moves don't pop up, but they popped up there, so a close combat takes out the Licky Tongue, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, probably the worst Pokemon we could see with this team is an Altaria in the lead, because obviously Altaria does very well up against a water type and 2 fighting types. But we go for a close combat and we actually grab a shield from the opponent, so that probably means they're weak to Gallade, but also they realise that we're quite weak to the Altaria, so it could be either. We're now going to come in with the Sneasler, going to have to shield this up, of course, as Sky Attack, would take us out. Well, maybe not fully take us out, but we're now going to see the opponent swaps into Swampert. We're going to throw on the CMP tie, close combat, one-shots the Swampert from full health there. They come back in with Altaria. We do just barely make it to an Aerial Ace. This should be grabbing the KO from the opponent, and it does. And the opponent's got a defense from Deoxys in the bag, so unfortunately, not a lot we can do here. I don't make it to 2 moves, so actually should have gone for the Hyper Fang, because the opponent actually lets that go through. And if we went for the harder hitting move there, because Water Gun is a 1-turn move, we were doing a lot of damage there, but unfortunately the Shadow Claw that goes through here is not enough to KO the Deoxys, and they can go for a second Psycho Boost. Psycho Boost going to be taking out the Sneasler, and unfortunately we do end up losing that game. But GG's to that opponent, very close game. Into the next battle, we see Galarian Stunfisk in the lead, so we are hitting for super effective damage with these water guns. I'm going to go for a Surf just before they make it to the Earthquake. Hopefully this does KO, but it doesn't quite KO. They live with a few HP remaining, so I'm going to shield this up. They stayed in, so probably weak to Bibarel in the back, but let's see. They're going to come in with Annihilate, and they swap into Horton. Oh my gosh, did you see that damage? There was 2 confusions, by the way. It's just a sort of glitch there, but still, that was actually ridiculous. I'm going to come in with my Bibarel, go for the Water Gun farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there, and into the final battle of this video, we see Jellicent in the lead. So this is a bit of an awkward matchup because both of us can only hit for resisted damage here. So what I'm going to do, sponge this move as they go for a Surf, not going to do too much, and obviously these Hexes are going to be double resisted as well. So I'm going to let the next move go through, and then I think I will bank the energy and then swap. Actually no, I'm going to fire off a Charge Move here. Not really sure why, because this isn't going to do much damage, but now I'm going to swap into my Shadow Gallade, and the opponent is going to end up throwing on Alignment, which is fine with me. They throw on the CMP tie as well, which I would have won, so not really sure why they did that, but now they come in with Clodsire, so clearly don't have a great response to my Shadow Gallade. We're going to go for a Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade, going to grab a shield from the opponent, fire off the second Leaf Blade straight away, because if they were running the Sludge Bomb, they would have made it there in just one more Poison Sting. But the opponent is going to finally fire off a Charge Move here as they go for a Stone Edge. Stone Edge is resisted damage, so it's going to be Stone Edge and Earthquake, which means I can come in with my Shadow Sneasler. I am resisting the Poison Sting damage. We're going to overfarm as much as possible, go for the Aerial Ace on the CMP tie. Aerial Ace grabs the shield from the opponent. At this point, I'm certainly going to shield up my Sneasler. Don't know what it is in the back, but it doesn't really matter. It's going to be a Combo O, so we can just go straight for the close combat, throw on the potential CMP tie with the Dragon Claw, but close combat easily takes out the Combo O. I'm able to Water Gun, farm down the Clodsire, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.